Hi everyone, welcome back or welcome in if this is your first time to my channel. In today's video, I am sharing my top 10 picks for a single one and done eyeshadow look. Let's go ahead and get right into the list. Okay, a couple notes right off the bat here. All of these shadows are looks that I've literally done before as single shadow looks prior to YouTube and Instagram and all of that. I never really took pictures, so some of these I don't have photos for. Anytime I do have a photo of me wearing these as a single shadow look, I'll pop that on the screen while I'm talking about it. So the breakdown and order here is going to be 3 matte shadows first, then I have 5 shimmer powder shadows, and then last I have 2 shimmer liquid / cream sorts of products. So my first pick here is a little bit of a cheat because it's just the recommendation to use whatever bronzer you're using for the day as a crease color and to just leave it at that. So I do this all the time. Anytime I'm in a hurry or I have a really light face of makeup on and I don't want my eyeshadow to kind of overpower the look, I love to go in and just use the bronzer that I'm using for the day. Chances are it's a perfect shade for your crease because if it's a perfect shade for your cheek color, it probably will also translate well on your eyes. I don't usually use my bronzer as like an all over lid color. I usually just put it in the crease to add that definition, but that is truly my favorite one and done shadow style. So just for the heck of it, I'm gonna go ahead and swatch my bronzer here just to stay consistent and make sure I've got a swatch for all 10 on my arm. Okay, and I just built it up a little so you can see a little bit better. Number 2 in the matte shadow category is this far shade here in the Ofra Sweet Dreams palette. It's called Dreamcatcher and it's just a beautiful peachy pink shade. Now, if you have a darker skin tone than me, this shade right next to it called Snooze would actually be a really beautiful option that would give the same effect on just a deeper skin tone. But I absolutely adore shades like this for my blue eyes. I didn't know always that I loved shades like this, and I actually recently did a KJH Academy. That's just a thing on Instagram. You can check it out if you're curious. It's Katie Jane Hughes. She's a professional makeup artist and she does it. And she challenged people to use a pastel shade that they're not usually comfortable wearing. And this is the one I picked and I realized how much I love it. This shadow doesn't swatch super well. It's sort of looks chunky and chalky whenever I swatch it, but it is a gorgeous, gorgeous shade on the eyes. There it is built up just a little more. Okay, and then the last matte shade that I have is the top corner of the Aether Beauty Mini Ametrine palette. And this is the shade Connection, and it's a gorgeous cool toned mauve shade. This is actually the shade that's all over my lids today, and I'm noticing that in my studio lights, it's looking a little dark. So I'll insert a photo here as well, just so you can see what it looks like in natural light after the fact, because I do think it comes off a little deeper on camera. Regardless, here is the swatch of Connection from the Aether Beauty palette. Again, I think this sort of a shade is a top choice for me because it really complements my blue eyes. So my big takeaway here is that I love these 3 matte shadows, but if you have different colored eyes, I would just recommend playing around with some of the lighter to mid-tone matte shadows in your collection to see what flatters your eyes the best. Okay, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I should have done it on the back of my arm, I think. So I'm actually gonna redo those 3 matte shades quick and then I will continue down the back of my arm. Okay, so I think this is gonna work much better to do it on the back of my arm. So I will continue doing them here for you. Okay, moving into the shimmer powder shadows. All 5 of these are coming from 2 different brands. So they're all coming from Sydney Grace and Juvia's Place. So if that tells you anything, even if these shades that I'm showing you today are not quite your style, those are 2 brands I would definitely recommend checking out for some great one and done shadows. So Sydney Grace, you just buy all of their shades individually. They do sell some palettes, but the majority of their shadows are just individual purchases. So this is just a collection that I own from Sydney Grace, and the two I'm talking about are these two down here. The first one up here is called The Greatest Gift, and it's in their pressed pigment formula. This is actually the shade that I wear in the video where I show my single shadow technique, so I will link that up in the corner if you want to see what this shadow looks like on my eyes. And then of course I'll insert a quick photo here as well, just so you can get a sense of it. But it's really super dimensional, so I'd recommend watching the video because it really shows the gorgeous shift of this shadow. Right here is The Greatest Gift from Sydney Grace. Oh my gosh. Okay, you can see the shift here as well. So it's a pink base and then it has a green shift on top. And shadows like this are perfect for one and done looks because you get that depth from the base, and then when you turn your head, that shift there, that duochrome catches the light. So it looks like you're wearing way more shadow shades than you actually are. The other one from Sydney Grace is this one down in the corner, and this is called Red Chameleon. I think I took some photos of me with this on as a single shadow look, but I don't think the lighting was super great, so I'm a little hesitant to put it in here, but if I find it and it looks okay, I will. But this swatch should do it justice. So just like the one above it, The Greatest Gift, this one called Red Chameleon is so incredible for a one and done look because of that duochrome and that shift. So Red Chameleon has like a red-brown base, and then you can see it has like a dark green, kind of like oil slick looking shift on top. And I absolutely love this shadow because when you pack it on your lid, you really get that shift. And then when you blend it up into your crease using that technique again in that video that I mentioned, you brush away some of those shimmer particles and you're really left with a super dimensional crease. The crease just looks kind of like that warm red-brown tone of that underneath shade, and it just comes out perfect every time I use it. And then my other three shimmer powder shades are all coming from the Magic Mini palette from Juvia's Place. If you are in the market for quick, easy, one and done eyeshadow looks, but also for a palette that'll give you a ton of versatility outside of just those single shadows, this is a perfect palette. So I am going to show you my top 3 favorite single shadows in this palette, but just know that there are even more hidden gems. For example, I'm not going to swatch the shade Nubia today because it's not one of my all-time favorites in this palette, but I do have a look that I'll pop on the screen right here of me using that as a single one and done shadow look. So tons of these are really, really beautiful all over the lid. I am going to start with Boronu, this really beautiful bronzy shade. And I just want to show you that, you know, a classic neutral toned shadow can also have tons of dimension. So there is Boronu. It is definitely just a kind of one-tone shimmer. So unlike these two from Sydney Grace that have kind of that base pigment and then the shimmer on top, Boronu's a really just kind of classic light-toned bronze, and I just think it's such a flattering color. This shadow is perfect to just put all over my lids because it just makes my eyes pop and it doesn't detract from the rest of my makeup. So this is a perfect one for me if I'm doing like a more bold lip or bold cheeks and I just want a gorgeous eyeshadow shade that will complement that without being too boring. Next up, I want to swatch Vi here. This one is like a green gray, and for some people this might be, let's just say, a little much for a single shadow, but I think it's perfect if you want to get like a really foiled metallic smoky eye in just a couple steps. So you can really just put that all over your lid and then buff it into your crease, and it's gonna be a shockingly gorgeous, gorgeous look with almost no work. So it's a really beautiful kind of complement to Boronu, which I think most people are more comfortable wearing shades like this. But I would just urge you to try something much more cool toned and see how you feel about that on your own complexion. And then last up, and my favorite in this palette, is the shade Fosso over here. And you're gonna see this one is more similar to those two Sydney Grace shadows where they have a base pigment and then they have a duochrome flip. So here we go. And Fosso is a purple to blue shift, as you can see there. So a little bit more fun, a little bit more out there in terms of colors, but really, really gorgeous. It will look like you put a ton of effort into your eye look with that shadow. Okay, and then last up, the final two I have here are the liquid and cream shimmer shades. So the first one I want to share is the Lid Star by Glossier in the shade Cub. And this is pretty recent to my collection. I just filmed first impressions where I used this. I'll link it up in the corner if you're curious. And ever since then, I can't stop thinking about this shadow, especially as an all over lid look. This is just gorgeous. So I'll put a picture here of me wearing it. Just know that it's all on its own on the inner corner of my eye in that picture. There are no other shadows down in that inner half of my eyelid, but the outer half is actually a different shadow. So ignore that. I just don't have a picture of me wearing just this alone at this point. This one could be a little tricky to swatch, so I am going to do my best here. I'm not sure if it'll work best to like blend it out with my finger or with the brush. Okay, I think I'm gonna need to just pack it on and then spread it out. So 1 second. Okay, there we go. I think that does it justice. So it's this bottom shade here. It's a really, really beautiful shade. And I just think it's so dimensional. I mean, you can see how much the light is reflecting off of it when it hits kind of the high point of my arm here. And then last up is a shadow that I've been singing the praises of on my channel for so long. This is the shade Amaze by ColourPop in their Super Shock Shadow formula. And this shadow doesn't have a ton of base pigment. It does have a little bit, but what makes this so special as a one and done shadow is that you can put it on your lids and it just looks glossy and shimmery and gorgeous, but it doesn't add a lot of pigment. So let me swatch it for you and you'll see what I mean here. There it is on the bottom. So you can see it does add sort of like a peachy neutral sort of shade, but it's primarily those top like glistening shimmers that give this such a dimensional look. And you can see like along these edges here where the shimmer kind of fades out even beyond that base pigment. And it just gives your lids such a glossy, gorgeous look. I think I'm actually just gonna tap a little bit of this on top of my current eye look just because I love it so much and I can't resist. So there you can see it didn't really change like the color underneath, and if it were just my bare eyelid there, it would pretty much still just look like my skin, but it adds this crazy amount of like shimmer and glow to your look. Okay, so yes, I realized the irony of adding a second shadow on top of my single shadow look during the video where I'm telling you about my favorite single shadows, but I just wanted to really demonstrate kind of how that ColourPop shadow worked and what I mean when I say it doesn't have tons of base pigment. It's more so just about getting that glittery effect on your eyes. As promised, I will insert some videos here of how these shadows look in natural light as well, since you now have had the chance to see them all in my studio lights plenty while I've been swatching. As I've sort of sprinkled in throughout this video, of course, you're going to want to try to find shades that you love on your own eyes and complexion. So these are just my personal top picks. These might not be the right shadows for you, but I wanted to give some of my kind of tips and things I look for when I'm picking single shadows for a one and done look, just to give you a sense of kind of where my brain is at. I hope you enjoyed this video today, and if you did, please consider subscribing to my channel before you go, and liking this video and commenting down below to let me know what some of your favorite one and done eyeshadows are. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you next time.